I'm David Fox, and you're listening to the Green and White Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of My Argyle Life. For this one, we're delighted to be joined by a man who, despite being the son of a former Exeter City manager and player, pulled on the Argyle shirt 142 times across 3 seasons and is the go-to name when discussing the most underrated players to ever play the game at home park. It is, of course, former Manchester United, Norwich City, Colchester and Blackpool midfielder David Fox. How are you, David?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, how's life been treating you since football?
Very different. A little bit boring, I'll be honest, but no, it's good. I'm still involved in the game. Not didn't go down the coaching route as of yet, but still working the game. I work as a loan manager, which I think over at Huddersfield Town, which I think is a job that's sort of cropping up more and more nowadays, and it's something I really enjoy doing. I get to go to matches on a Saturday in midweek and follow and help sort of mentor players and try and get them to sort of try and experience a career in the game, which I was very fortunate to do.
Yeah, obviously you say you catch games on a Saturday. Have you managed to catch many Argyle games recently?
I've done a few. I do the odd bit of commentary as well. So the last one I went to was Sheffield United away. Was the last sort of live game I went to. Obviously, I look at the results, look how they get on, and all those sorts of keep my sort of keep my knowledge up on the club and such, and keep my eye on them. It'll be hard not to. But yeah, in terms of the actual live game, I went to the Sheffield United away game, which was a strange one really, because I think, to be fair, Argyle, I thought they did all right. It was a bit of a weird one. They got beat 2-0, and sort of, it wasn't a great performance, but I think they were in a pretty tough spell at that minute, pretty tough situation. So it was tough. It was a tough game.
Yeah, it was one of those where, as you know, we haven't won. Well, hopefully we've won on the road when this comes out, but we haven't won on the road for quite a while. And it was one of those where we saved one of our best performances on the road for one of the best teams in the league. And is what it is. But like I said, hopefully by the time this is out, we've actually beaten Luton, and who else have we got before the international break, Sam? Anyway, that's besides the point. Moving on. Just to go through your earliest memories, obviously, I've already mentioned them up the road. You started out in their academy, right? Because obviously your dad was a player and a manager at St James Park.
Yeah,
and then obviously you moved on to United in 2000. Just talk us through like your earliest memories of football.
Yeah, so obviously my dad was a footballer, so I grew up in Stoke for a bit till I was about 10, and then he played for Stoke, and then he moved down to Exeter as a player, and then ultimately went on to be the manager. So I lived down in Devon from about 9 till I was 16. So had an amazing sort of education, and growing up in Devon by the sea in Exmouth, and got loads of mates still down there and things like that. So I'm very lucky to grow up in what I thought was an amazing part of the world. And I just played for Exeter because my dad was the manager, and I was never signed to the club as such. I'd play the matches and under 13s, 14s, all that sort of stuff. Eamon Dolan, they were just starting their centre of excellence at the time, so it was all pretty new for them as a club. And Eamon Dolan was pretty hands-on with it all back then, who I'm sure is a name that a lot of football fans are aware of. He's done some really amazing things, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, but he those sorts of people leave sort of impressions on you, and I loved sort of being there and sort of growing up around football. I was always say I was so fortunate that my old man was in football. I saw things that other players wouldn't get the opportunity to do. I sat in meetings, I sat in his office and watched how they spoke about players, and I always feel like he, without putting any pressure on me, he sort of gently sort of navigated me into what a footballer should do, and picked up some good traits from being around football from such a young age. And I was going up to Manchester in summer holidays, up to United in sort of summer holidays, and I was also going to Arsenal as well in some of the holidays. So I wasn't actually signed for anyone. And then once I left school, I had the decision to make: do I sign for Man United or Arsenal, or stay at City? And we thought about it, and and Man U was the one I wanted to go for. And then I just did my scholarship and apprenticeship there, which, early 2000s and, late 90s, 2000s, it was a club that was, it was winning everything. And to go there and be a part of it and get to see what goes on at a top club like that is something that, something I was very grateful for. So my early education sort of from 9 till 21, 22 was an amazing grounding to go on and be a footballer.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if I had the choice between Arsenal and United, Exeter City definitely wouldn't even be in that question. So I think you made the right decision there. Yeah, you mentioned, obviously, the United when we were younger were, a much different beast to what they are now. Obviously playing in one of the, academies of one of the best teams in the world. Did you ever believe that you could become a player there, that it was a real possibility to play for United?
I think you go there believing it for sure, and you back yourself, and then I think it does dawn on you fairly quickly that, look, this is going to be tough here. It's not just the people above you that you're trying to catch; it's the ones underneath you that are just as good that are trying to catch you, and it's just a conveyor belt of talent, or at least it was, and you become quite. Yeah, you become to realise it's going to be very, very difficult. But what I do think it does is it prepares you for what it's about, what being a footballer is about. And I think even though I didn't make it at United, or the chances are very, very slim, I think there's always those things that are instilled in you from being there. You get to work with the best coaches, you get to work with the best in the best facilities alongside the best players. It gives you the best chance. It's like a university, it's like a college university. If you can get to the best one, it sets you up and sort of holds you in good stead for what the future could be.
Yeah, you're gonna have to correct me if this is wrong. So this is just on your transfer marked page. So again, not deep diving research. I'm hoping you can correct me, but it says that you captained United's reserve team to a Premier League Reserve League title and played for England under-20s at the 2003 FIFA World Youth Championships alongside the likes of James Milner, Gary O'Neill, Michael Chopra and Stephen Taylor. That must have, if that's correct, that must have been, some introduction to youth football at least.
Absolutely, yeah. The youth teams back then were under 17s, under 19s, and you play the reserves, and the reserves was tough. You had lads that would drop down. I played with all the first team players because if they weren't, if they're coming back from injury or if they weren't quite getting a game, they play for the reserve. So Phil Neville, Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, David May, Roy Carroll, Roy Keane, all these lads I played with in the reserves. That's your grounding. I remember playing against Gareth Barry when I was about 18, thinking, who is this? He was only 3 or 4 years older than me, but the standard of reserve team football back then, it was proper stuff, and it was real high quality football. And nowadays you see it's under 21s, but in reality it's probably under 19s, because if you're 20, 21, you're on loan or you've moved on from a club. So those old school reserve team football doesn't really exist anymore. And I really enjoyed that, and like I say, I captained it for a while. And with the England stuff, I was with the England schoolboys from 15 to under 20, so saw all the best sort of talent from my age group, year above, year below, all those sorts of players you mentioned, your Milners, all those. I've seen them from 15, 16, and what they went on to achieve was top from the careers that they had, and I was lucky to enjoy that sort of career in the youth football. Like I said, that World Championships was over in Dubai 2003. So as a 19, 20-year-old, the experiences you were getting from football was, like I said a few times, it holds you in really good stead and opens your eyes to all sorts of stuff. I'm very fortunate that, like I say, that I was able to experience all those things early on in my career.
Yeah, alongside that, a spell in Belgium with Royal Antwerp. We're seeing a lot more of English talent go abroad now. It seems to be more than I remember anyway when I was younger. But as a loans manager, would you Do you recommend that move abroad more?
Absolutely. I loved it, and I didn't really play. We had 4 managers in 6 months, and they weren't really having me. I probably, looking back now, probably wasn't quite ready for it. But in terms of, like I say to all the lads, to the lads now, it's like, you can judge a loan on minutes you play, and yes, you need the minutes, but there's no such thing as a bad loan. If you don't take something out of it, then you're not doing the right things, because I took so much out of that. I didn't think I was fit enough. Didn't think I trained hard enough. I've watched players crying after games because they got beat and jobs are on the line and managers getting sacked. I wasn't used to all that sort of stuff. So, I witnessed so much stuff in that 6 months over in Belgium, a different way of life, language, cliques in dressing rooms, all these sorts of things that when you look back now, you learn a lot from. And I try to say to the lads, like, yes, playing, you have to play and you have to get your minutes and it's vital. But if you are not, then you need to be learning things and taking examples and taking learning away from situations that, will stand you in good stead for a long career. And yeah, I love my time in Belgium. I went with another lad and, like I say, didn't really play that much, but, I felt like I probably, looking back now, especially, I certainly grew up as a person, as a player, as a man, and had to take a bit more responsibility for my performances. And it wasn't just managers giving you minutes because you're in the youth team. It was, you had to earn everything you got. And I took a lot of that spell into the rest of my career.
Yeah, I'm just going to fast forward through the next bit of your career, because obviously we're obviously interested in the Argyle bit, but after you leave United, you have a successful start to life at Blackpool, and then you opt to join Colchester with Paul Lambert, where you notch in a 7-1 win over Norwich. Goal scoring didn't seem to be your thing really in your career, but you managed to get one on the first day of the season, and then you follow him up the A140 to Norwich, where you win promotion to the Premier League. I have to mention Norwich. People that listen to our pod will know where I'm based, and that is Norwich. Tried to get into that, but I think you ended up playing 30 games in the Premier League for Norwich. Is that where like life peaked? Is that all that hard work in the Leagues One and the Championship to work your way back up to the Premier League? Is that...
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I left Man United at 22 years old and I hadn't made an appearance, and I'd cancelled my contract just to get out and go on trial at places. And when I went on trial at Blackpool, we were second from bottom in League One at the time. So the thought of getting back to the Premier League was it would never ever cross my mind did I think I would get back to that. I thought if I could have a career, that would be great. But I remember walking out at Old Trafford in the league game for Norwich, away at Old Trafford, and just thinking that, it really has gone full circle here. And to be able to walk out there as, with the Premier League badge on your arm, and to get picked to start a match at that level against that team was, probably one of the proudest moments of my career. And it was, a lot of hard work went into getting back there, a lot of luck. You had to meet the right people at the right time. And I certainly did that with Paul Lambert for sure. I think he took a shine to me where probably others didn't. And I suited what he wanted, and we got on a right roll at Norwich and managed to get up through the Championship into the Premier League and comfortably finish mid-table in the Premier League. So, yeah, I owe a lot to him for sure. He took me to Colchester, then took me to Norwich. But that sort of promotion from the Championship that year in the Premier League, that was 2 seasons where I played a lot of football in a very, very good team, playing at a very good level. And yeah, look, it was a top time in my career. And I've got a lot of time for Norwich and the people at Norwich. It does remind me of Argyle a lot, Norwich, in terms of, it's a city, it's a club on its own in a city, a long way from anyone else. Yeah. But it's pretty massive, and there's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation, and everyone knows, there's not many Man City tops knocking about. It's Argyle, it's Norwich, it's these people in the cities live and breathe their club, and there is a lot of similarities between the two. And fortunate that I got to have some very good times at both of them.
Yeah, I think you touched on a point there about Paul Lambert, like just taking a shine to you. I think we've done more pods with midfielders than anybody else, haven't we, Sam? I think Danny said similar under Lowe. We had David Norris say the same under Ian Holloway. Just like certain managers just seem to love a central midfielder and just sort of stick with them. That seems to be a running theme. So it's interesting to hear that you had the same with Paul Lambert. I think this is the bit where I hand over to Sam and he discusses all things Argyle. Like I said, he has a bit of an encyclopedic knowledge of things. So I normally just leave that up to him. So Sam.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that introduction, Aaron. You're nothing like putting the pressure on me. So, David, obviously you left Norwich. You had that one season in the Premier League, and then I think you went to Crewe, didn't you? It didn't work out there really for whatever reason. But so you left Crewe, and then the opportunity came up of a trial at Plymouth Argyle. How did that come about? Was that something that you initiated, or was it an invitation from the club?
Yeah, it was something from the club. I can't really remember how it came about. So as I said, I went had a year at Crewe, moved up back home and had a year at Crewe. It was difficult. We're in League One. We struggled. It was a tough season for everyone. And I was just scratching around, looking to try and get another club. And I think it was through a friend. I think a friend who lived in a friend I went to school with who was from Plymouth. He then said, mentioned something about it being on a message, something like that. I can't remember.
I'm going to have to interrupt you there, David. We know him because he told us this, and I didn't believe him. So okay. You're backing him up here.
I've got that. That just came to me then. I'm sure it's something to do with a mess, something like that.
I absolutely love that mention. I'm not going to give him. I'm not giving him the satisfaction of his name, but. And
I think and then Paul Watson got in touch with an agent friend of mine. I remember that, and it was just an opportunity to go down and have a couple of days training and playing a game. And listen, with me growing up in Devon, in Exeter, I knew all about Argyle. They were League Two. They struggled for a number of years financially, and then they'd lost in the playoff final. But because I knew the club and knew about Devon football and all this sort of stuff, the opportunity for me was like take it straight away, because I knew the size of the club. I knew a bit of a sleeping giant as such. I knew the fan base, and I knew what Devon was like. And so I jumped at the chance and I came down and trained. I played a game against Torquay, a trial game, and I thought I was pretty average, and I didn't think anything would come of it, if I was honest. But then, fortunately, they asked me to come back again, and I think I played another game, and then they said, "Do you want to come for a year?" And I jumped at the opportunity. It was a big thing to do in terms of commuting and moving down to the area. When you only have a 1-year contract, it's difficult to up sticks and the family and the kids when you don't have that security. But I just wanted to play, and I wanted to play. I wanted to feel, which I probably didn't quite have at Colchester and Crewe. I wanted to feel a bit of pressure and a bit of expectation and a bigger crowd again. I missed playing in front of big crowds and a big expectation, and that's what I certainly got and certainly found when I came down.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on it with the expectation, because we were coming into what was our 6th season in League Two. And with respect, not wanting to sound like a bunch of big time Charlies, it's kind of a level Argyle fans never feel we should be at as a club. So there was that huge pressure coming in. So I take it your family stayed up north then, just following on from that point.
They did. So I was there for 3 years, but I only ever signed 1-year contracts. When you get old, they don't offer you nice, 3-4 year deals anymore. But if that was the case, I think we did say we would have definitely come down. If they'd have known, I would have been there for a while, and would probably still be there now, if I'm honest. But yeah, it was fine. I got back when I did, and the wife had been in it with us for a long time and knew what it was all about, and the travel, and it was good. And I enjoyed it, because when I was down in Plymouth and I just lived the football. I didn't have anything else. I slept, I trained, I played, and that was it. And I enjoyed that side of it. I had some very, very good teammates. For a couple of years, lived lived with Gary Sawyer and Luke McCormack and Graham Carey. These guys are, brilliant lads. And, my time down there, despite the fact that my family and my kids were up here and it was tough and the travel got tough towards the end, they made me feel like it, I felt like a teenager again and felt young again and played a lot of games again. So, yeah, it was tricky, but like I say, I wouldn't have swapped anything. And to being able to stay fit and play for those 3 years, I'm very grateful for that.
I have to admit, I do feel incredibly sorry for your wife. You didn't half pick your clubs, did you? I know
I could have done a Carlisle or a Sunderland just to finish it off a bit. Yeah. No, it was good. We had a nice adventure. We've been in the same house now for a few years, which is longer than we've ever been. So we're nice and settled and roots and all that sort of stuff now. And we won't be moving again. But we had a good time. We had a nice adventure for a few years. It was good.
Yeah, and I guess obviously that knowledge that you had, that appreciation of the West Country, and Exmouth is a lovely town, by the way, was key in your decision to come here, whereas maybe a lot of players who don't really know the area may not have done.
That's it. Know the area, know the club. I'm sure the decision makers at the club understand that it can be difficult to attract players down there, and you probably have to get a certain type of player or person, or someone that is desperate, which I probably was at the time, to come down there. I think Derek was good at that. He picked players that were desperate and needed it, and you could attract them down there then. But I knew what the club was about, and I was on the other side of it, but I knew what the rivalry was like with Exeter and Plymouth, and just the size of the club, really. And I played against Argyle in the Championship and things like that, where it was a proper club, and Holloway and all that sort of stuff. So I've seen what it can be when it's rocking, and I wanted to be a part of that. And like you say, the expectation, Derek was very adamant when I first met him that we have to get promoted this year. We fell short the year before, but we've got to go up. And I had a couple of promotions before then, but that was the one. The Argyle one certainly felt like more relief than joy. I think it was relief at the end. We had a team good enough to go up for sure. We had players good enough to play higher. It was just about getting the job done, getting over the line, and it's not easy, but there was a lot of relief once we did in that first year.
Yeah, I totally agree. From a fan perspective as well, it was definitely more relief than joy. And Aaron won't shout him out, but I will. I'll give a shout out for our mutual friend Casey for introducing you to Plymouth Argyle. He's a good bloke, so I think he deserves a shout out. Aaron, he's not too sure, but we do know Casey, and we thought he might have been exaggerating when he told us that, but apparently he's not.
No, he was definitely got a random text out of the blue from him. I remember that. Yeah.
Amazing. So moving on then to that season in a bit more detail then. First couple of games of the season, we lost the first two in the league, and I think you didn't get straight into the team, did you? It took a little bit of time for you to break in, and then we went on that absolutely astonishing run where we won something like about 14 out of 16. So talk us through your thoughts, David, on that brilliant run of form that saw us fly to the top of the league.
Yeah, it was interesting. I joined a little bit later. I probably wasn't as fit as I should have been, and I needed a little bit of time. And yeah, like I say, came on in a couple of games. I had a little bit of an injury, which meant I missed a couple, and I just had to be patient. Like you say, the lads were playing well. I played a couple of cup games where, I played well and showed what I was about, and I was confident I would get in the team eventually. And like you say, we were just on a roll. We were flying. We were creating opportunities. We were tough to beat. We had players fit, and competition for places, I remember, was very high. And yeah, we obviously beat Exeter in the derby at that point, I think, and Graham Carey was on fire. We were a very, very, very good team. We had a little bit. I always say we had a little bit of everything. We could mix it with people if we had to. We had some lads that were very good at rolling the sleeves up. But then if it became a bit of a football match, we had some very, very good, high quality footballers that could play, and we mixed it up. We didn't pass it around the back for the sake of it. We played forward. We ran forward. It's something Derek, I remember always saying, and I say it now to players: play forward, run forward, and it makes the game so much easier. And that's what we did. We had lads that were at it, and it, like I said before, it was a team that needed to get promoted. It had to get promoted. It had, like I say, had a little bit of everything.
And of course, then you got your first goal in the FA Cup against Mansfield, didn't you? Which I believe was a free kick, if my memory serves me right. I know that Graham Carey was mostly on them, but I think
Graham was on him. I think I remember it went top corner. I remember that anyway because I remember it was fireworks night as well because I remember driving home, seeing all the fireworks, thinking, like, I've not had this feeling for a while, scoring a goal. So no, it was good. The FA Cup, obviously, like you say, it's interesting where that would lead to eventually with the FA Cup, but no, it was a sweet moment, and something probably looking back, I do feel like I should have scored more goals for the club. I chipped in with a couple, but I probably should have scored more.
On that, then, going back to sort of a couple of things about Derek Adams, just a couple on him as a manager of that guy. I think from what other people have said who we've spoken to, he was an incredibly demanding manager in some ways, and perhaps that may have rubbed some up the wrong way. But when he had the players fighting for him and running through brick walls for him, as the saying goes, he was a real inspiration to play. And what was your thoughts on life under Derek Adams day to day?
Yeah, he was that. He was very demanding. He expected high standards. He expected you to adhere to those standards all the time. And if you dropped under them, he had a very high opinion of what Argyle should be. He felt like it shouldn't, and he wanted people that would go on that journey with him and felt the same. And when things were good, they were very good. And I played a lot of football under him, so I've got nothing but positive things to say about him because ultimately he kept me fit. He kept me on the pitch, which is the biggest thing. I probably felt as fit as I ever did in those last sort of 3 or 4 years because he trained so hard, and you didn't have Mondays in the swimming pool. It was hard training on a Monday, tough on a Tuesday, double sessions. It was pretty relentless, and not everyone could deal with that. Not everyone enjoyed that. And if you're not in a team, I can imagine it's tough to do. But for myself, who invariably would get to play on a Saturday, I think though the sort of that relentless nature of himself and Paul Watton had me in the best shape possible to perform on a Saturday.
Absolutely. And going on to the tactical side of things, I think you sort of again said it yourself with there was a lot of big, strong, physical, direct players in the team, and you were perhaps a little bit more of a technician in the team. And that season, obviously, I know you weren't here the year before. I think we consciously made the choice to go a bit more direct. I mean, like you say, he was never one for playing out for the sake of it, but I think in the year before there was a bit more build-up play, and then there was a conscious change to going a bit more direct. So in that style, when it was more based around the physical battles, how important was your role at the heart of that midfield in getting those long balls over the top into the channels for the forward players to battle over? How do you feel about your role in that team?
Yeah, my role was very clear, was to get the ball off the back players and get us playing and link and play into the attacking players. What he was very good at was he would change really well in game. I thought he was very good at that. If a team played as a lot of the time, it would be, say, for instance, like if I was playing in midfield with me and Jan and Graham at some point, he'd drop Jan deeper if he had to. If they had a number 10 that was really good on the ball, he'd drop Jan deeper. If they didn't, then maybe I would play a bit deeper and get on the ball and get his play. He had, within a framework of predominantly 4-3-3, he had lots of flexibility around it. If a team played with 2 number 6s and an 8, or 2 number 6s and a 10, we'd play with 2 number 10. We'd match teams up to stop them playing, and then when we had to, we could then go and play our game around them, and we'd have overloads out on the sides when try and get in that. He was very good. It wasn't like we were playing different formations every week and no one knew what was that. We would play the 4-3-3 or a formation similar to that. With 3 midfield normally, but he would tweak it as and when he needed. He'd tweak it in games to stop players or to get us on the ball. He was very good at that. And normally, if we weren't winning or we were struggling at half time, he'd just tell us to boot it up to the big man and change it and just run around more. So no, he was very good. I feel like he knew what he had, and he was very good at getting the most out of those lads.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of default strategies, weren't there? It became a bit of a running joke in the fans that whenever we played a team with a diamond 4-4-2, which seemed to be like kind of in fashion at the time, so you would always either at halftime or from the start would try and match them up. I remember that being a common trend. And then obviously there was the as you alluded to earlier, the FA Cup. So I know Aaron's got a couple of questions on that, so I'll briefly hand back to Aaron on that one.
Oh, do I? Yeah. So obviously, without your goal up at Mansfield, there would be no Liverpool away. So kudos to you for that. But just what's just your initial reaction to that draw? Because obviously, I don't know if you know, we've recently beaten Liverpool. I'm not sure it made much of the news. And that draw just for fans is mad, and obviously getting Man City away is huge. What was it like to just draw Liverpool? Was it like a real chance to showcase, or was it just a plan on just being a good day out?
Yeah, I think it had a bit of everything, really. I remember when we first found out, we were still had to play Newport away in the replay. So I remember being pretty frustrated and annoyed that we hadn't done the job in the first place, because we were at home against 10 men, I think, for a long time, and we didn't break them down. And that was very frustrating that we had to go to Newport to play them again. But once we'd got over that sort of second game, the replay, it was just excitement. It was real excitement. You could feel the whole city, probably exactly what it would be like now. The whole city was a real buzz for the cup, the FA Cup. Pretty much everyone in Plymouth had a ticket, and it was just green behind the goal. It was amazing, and we didn't go in there thinking, let's have a nice day out. We wanted to give them a game. We wanted to be, we wanted to be part of it. It was on BT, I think. So it was on the Sunday. And yeah, they when they announced the team and they had a lot of changes and a lot of the younger players playing, we fancied it, and we thought we'd be able to frustrate them. And what it wasn't like we had to completely re-change what we did to play against Liverpool. We would play like that against good teams in our league, and maybe not to that extreme, and we wouldn't be on the edge of the box, but we were very good without the ball. We were very organised. Derek had a very organised. We would drop in when we had to. We covered spaces. We worked for each other. So it wasn't. I remember we played Doncaster at home, and it was very similar to. We played exactly the same way. We were tough to beat. We were a good team that worked for each other, and we had quality on the break. And obviously against League Two teams, you can pick them off, and it was much tougher to do that at Liverpool. But it wasn't really. So I don't think anyone was surprised in amongst the players that we could go there and get a result and get a draw and bring them back, which created an amazing night for the fans.
Yeah, just to go back to Norwich really quickly. Obviously, you'd already played at Anfield against Liverpool in a 1-1 draw. So you're a bit of a draw specialist up at Anfield. Did playing there before help, or was it just a different type of like euphoria anyway?
Yeah, for me it certainly did. I think they had a new stand the second time I went, so it was all a little bit different. But yeah, it felt no. I enjoyed those. Are the games you live for. They're the easiest games you can play. The Liverpools, the Man City, Man U's away. They are the easiest games of football you can have, because the place is just where you want to play football. It is exactly what it is, and why you kick a ball around at 6, 7, 8 years old is to go into these arenas and play football. And you don't need motivating. You don't need to get up for it, because it's there, and you've got to be right on it to play well. And yeah, I loved it. What a place to go and play football. As you say, the lads there now picked up an unbelievable result, and they will go and feel the same things at Man City. They'll feel that same buzz and excitement of feeling of this is what the top looks like, and you want more of it. And I was lucky that I got to do it a few times, and would have loved to have done it hundreds and hundreds of times more, because that is ultimately where you want to go and play football.
Yeah, you're gonna have to correct me here, Sam. Was it Tanner or Jervis that pinged the post?
Jervis certainly hit the post in the home game for sure.
Right, see, I'm getting my Liverpool mixed up now. We play them so often that
there was a moment in the away game where Tanner was through on goal, and Jervis could have possibly squared it and could have shot, and I think he shot and he went side netting. So you're possibly mixing the two incidents up. Yeah.
Like I said, we play them so often. Was there a point where you thought we could have these? Like we could genuinely do the job here?
Probably not go on and get something. I think they were very much on top, but I did feel like we can see it out and get a draw for sure, and probably didn't need another game with what we were trying to do and get promoted. But no, we were in a good play. Like I say, we defended the box and all that sort of stuff, and we were camped in our own third. But that's what you do, and like I say, we were pretty good at that, and we were used to that and set up to do stuff. And we had a very good goalkeeper. We had Sonny and Jan that could defend crosses, and fullbacks that stop crosses. Like we had lots of a really good makeup of a team that could go and be hard to beat.
You've already mentioned their lineup, which was, I think, the youngest lineup they'd ever put out. But actually, looking back, there's some huge names in there, like Trent, Gomez, and people that maybe should have played against us this time round. But is there a part of you that's a bit annoyed that they name a weakened lineup, or is that part of it, and that it fuels the desire to beat them because they've underestimated you?
Yeah, you don't really know. You don't take too much into it. You just play who's there, and you knew it was going to be a sellout. You knew that there would be good players. There's a reason they're at Liverpool, whether they're playing week in and week out.
Yeah, true.
There's a reason they're there, and that's because they are. And there's a reason we're in League Two, because they're faster, they're stronger, they're quicker, they're sharper in the brain than we are. That's the reason that they're where they are and we're where we were. So you knew there were good players, and the young right back that was bombing on. There's a reason he's a good player, and the reason he's at Liverpool, and he's gone on to do what he's done. But yeah, we still knew it was going to be tough. We still knew they'd have a lot of the ball and things like that. But what's different to say the result this time around is that Argyle are a championship club now. They're spending championship money on certain players, and the strength and the players that they have are very good quality. We were a League Two team that were brought together with a bunch of free signings and cast-offs, and that is the reason it where we were and why it was I think such a big thing to go and make it hard for them.
Yeah, I suppose. Sorry, Sam. Last thing from me on Liverpool. Anyway, I know that Oscar Frelkel tweeted about revenge being sweet after the win at Home Park. I don't know if you watched it, but I'm getting the sense from you that it's maybe not the same feeling. Maybe that you like.
No, I think Oscar feels like that because it was his man that scored from the corner. So and it was his fault. That's the reason he feels like he needs a bit of revenge. We all did all right. We all did our jobs for 2 games. He's the one that lost his man. No, I'm only messing. I can see why he's saying that. And yeah, look, I think it was great. The games were perfect the way they were. We went up there. We give them a great game, and we give them a tough one, and then we got everyone back to Home Park, and we didn't deserve to go through probably, but what it did was it got a bit of money in, got a bit of buzz around the place, and we managed to bring some players in that got us over the line and got promoted. So yeah, look, I was really content with those 2 games. I thought they were real highlights of what was a top season.
Yeah, and I'll just skipping away a little bit from Liverpool now, because I'm conscious we'll be trying to keep it to an hour, where we're not yet even a third of into the way of your time at Argyle. So we'll try and hit the fast forward button a little. And so going forward to promotion itself, obviously, that incredible run, to see the season out culminating in that 6-1 victory against Newport. Just talk us through those final few games, the promotion, and then just falling short of the title at Grimsby on the final day.
Yeah, it was a little bit bittersweet. I'll be honest. It still sort of wrangles with me a little bit that we didn't win the league. We'd spent so long trying to chase Doncaster, who were probably, we thought at the time, were gone out of sight and we weren't going to get them. And then to finish above them, for the last sort of 8-9 weeks of the season, if we'd have finished above them, we thought we'd have won the league. But ultimately, it wasn't to be. I somehow looked the other day. I don't know why, but it was somewhere was the league table, and we literally had an identical record to Portsmouth in terms of wins, draws, losses, but it was the goal difference that that cost us a title, and it's something that still frustrates me a little bit. I think we where we were, and to give us the opportunity to beat Grimsby to win the league, we should have done that. But look, the job was done. The main thing at the start of the season was to get promoted, and we said that after Newport, after that result where it meant we were promoted, that we'd done our job. That was what we were meant to do. And look, the title would have been an added bonus, and like I say, it still frustrates a little bit, but the main thing was we got out of the league, and we managed to do that, and we did it in what was, I think the Portsmouth game, just before I think it was Easter weekend, so we had Portsmouth on the Friday or the Thursday, and then that was a great game. I really enjoyed that. That's always a top place to go and play football. So we had that, and then we had the Newport one over the weekend. So yeah, unbelievable scenes, great memories, and it was sort of a fitting end, and the relief, as I mentioned earlier, for taking the club out of League Two.
Yeah, and it was good to eat after that Grimsby game, despite the brief disappointment. I remember at the time all of the lads went out and about on the town for a few drinks. It must have been a great weekend after the culmination of the season. Probably a few sore heads on the open top bus tour, I imagine, on that day.
Yeah, it was. I think a few of the lads will have funny stories to tell about that weekend. Most of them probably involving me, but I'm not going to say anything. It was great. We went out for a while, and we went out into the city, and a lot of the lads. It was good to spend some time with the boys, and because like I say, most of the time I'll be back up in Manchester, so it was nice to be down there and just to be around the boys, because that's why you play the game, and that's what you remember when you finish. Now, when I'm a few years retired, you look back at those moments, those promotions, and the successes that you have, and they stick with you. And the people you speak to are normally the ones that you've gone and done something pretty big with. So yeah, it was great, and like I say, to do it over that, I think I'm sure it was an Easter weekend, and the open top bus and all that sort of stuff. My girls were there and came down for it, and things like that. I've got lots of the photos. So yeah, the real special moments, and like I say, a culmination of a lot of hard work.
Yeah, the promotion was certainly the Easter weekend, the Pompey and Newport, and then there were a couple of games after, and then it was the May bank holiday, the Grimsby game. So it was still a bank holiday. It was there we go. Then. So yeah, going on to the following season, then our first season back up in League One, obviously turned out to be an absolutely fantastic season, way beyond our best expectations. But it'd be fair to say it certainly didn't start that way. So what do you feel was at the root of the tough start to that season? Was it just a step up to the league, or anything more than that? What's your thoughts there, David?
I think there was a few bits really. There'd been a lot of turnover in the summer. A lot of lads were out of contract that had left, that were good players, good lads, and it probably took a little while for the new players to sort of come in and settle a little bit. It's always very difficult to come into a team that has been promoted, because the lads are normally pretty close. They've been through quite a lot together, so there's a bit of a bond there, and it probably just took some of those new players just a little bit of time just to settle in. And if I remember right, we just had a disaster with goalkeepers as well. I remember that first sort of 3 or 4 months. I just think every single goalie in the world had played for us at some point. We missed Luke, and having him as an ever present, I think he got an injury, and we just couldn't quite find any stability in that first half of the season. We had a good way of throwing games away. We tried different things. It wasn't quite working. But then ultimately, I think once the lads settled and got into the rhythm of things, we managed to put like the second half of the season. I'm sure you were going to tell me that anyway. But that second half of the season was, one of the best teams I've played with. That was, we had just had so much momentum. We so hard to beat, and if we'd have just managed to, we were only a few points off, and if you consider, I think we were, bottom of the league at Christmas or something, to be in with a shout of playoffs, that team was really good, really good.
Yeah, like you said, it was kind of what I was coming to, that new change of formation, because I think if I remember rightly, it was a little bit more at the start of the season, at least more of a 4-2-3-1 with Graham Carey in the kind of, maybe the 10 behind the striker with wingers on either side. And it very much adapted, didn't it, to the formation with Ruben and Graham as the two inside number 10s, with Ryan Taylor down the middle. And I just remember that was one of the most enjoyable times really watching Argyle, that 2 or 3 month run. It felt like we were winning every week. We had, obviously, initially it was Diagaraga, then Jamie Ness came in for him, and Sarcevic. Yeah, they were sort of the two sort of really sort of high pressing midfielders, if you like, and there you were sort of playing the Andrea Pirlo role of just playmaking and getting the ball to the attacking players. How much do you feel that change of formation really positively impacted things?
It did, yeah. And I think with Ruben, what a player. He just I don't think he quite clicked with Derek at the start, for sure. Very complex character, Ruben, but what a player. I don't think they quite saw things the same way at the start, but once he got him in, I remember the Oldham game. We played Oldham at home, and he was brilliant, and it was such a good team to play. And like you say, we all knew each other's roles. Toombs came in, did great, and then I think he moved on somewhere else in the January. But by that time, Nessie was over his injuries and he was flying. And and I think Zach Viner, if you look back at the team now, we had, Remy Matthews was played a few games for us in net. Crystal Palace at the minute. Gary Sawyer played a lot of championship games. Sonny Bradley's played a lot of championships. Zach Viner, a lot of championship. Myself, Graham Carey, Ruben Ramirez. We had a team that was pretty high on quality, and I believe if we'd have kept Ryan Taylor fit, if he wouldn't have got injured, I think we'd have had a real sniff of getting in the playoffs. I just think we ran out of steam, unfortunately. I think the Scunthorpe game, I remember, got called off. I think if we'd have played them originally, I think we'd have beaten them. Not that I'm bitter about it, but we'd have, And then eventually, when we had to go to play them before the end of the season, we were on our knees. We had so many injuries. We had lads not training, and we had lads that couldn't play, and we were a real mishmash of players. But that sort of 11 that sort of picked itself over a 3-4 month period was, like I say, one of the best teams. We beat Rotherham comfortably, who ended up getting promoted. I think we beat another one that went up. I can't remember who it was. Yes, that's right. We beat the teams that got promoted. That when we had that team fit and firing, we were as good as anyone. And unfortunately, we just couldn't quite get enough of us on the pitch towards the end, and ultimately just fell a little bit short. But that like I say, I'm sure you mentioned it, and I certainly feel the same. That sort of 6 month period after Christmas was one of the most enjoyable times I've had, for sure.
Yeah, I was on the bus to that Scunthorpe game, and I was basically nearly there when they turned us round. They told us it got rained on. I'm not bitter either, don't worry. I'm there for the rearranged game, which we won't talk too much about. It was like you say, I remember the team that was put out, but without any disrespect to some of them, it was like players in their wrong positions. It was players who hadn't played for months, and that's not anything on Derek or the team, because it had to, because that was the only team that was fit, right? But it was we could just tell it was kind of all falling apart.
Lads were playing that shouldn't really been playing, and things like that. So we just ran out of steam at the end, which was a shame.
Yeah, I actually remember that rearranged Scunthorpe game. We started off with Ruben Ramirez as the number 9, and he was a fantastic creative player, but I'm not sure he was ever 9. But then I think Alex Fletcher had to come on at half time because we changed it up a bit, if I remember right. But anyway, that's enough on that one defeat to Scunthorpe. Just going back to a final question on that season, then before we go on to the year after, the Wimbledon home game where we won 4-2. Which, speaking of Ruben, he was obviously famously known for his goal celebration in that game. You also had a very famous celebration in that game, didn't you? When you scored your goal, when you sort of waddled over to the touchline. What was your reasoning behind it?
It was to Watsy that. Yeah, he always used to just batter me for every pre-season. We used to go on the running track. They used to take us on the track for a week, and running's not my cup of tea. Not a big runner. Don't like it. As anyone that watched me play will tell you, not a very good runner. And he used to just say, my running technique was terrible on the track. I'd gone. So he used to say, I used to run like that, and my arse would go, my knees. And so as soon as I scored, I turned around and I saw him, and I just did a little run that he used to take the piss out of me for. So, sorry, I don't know if I can say that. He used to take the mick out of me. So I saw him, and he was the first person I saw, and didn't expect anyone to take a photo of it anyway. So no, it was good, and like I say, it was a good goal and important at the time to keep the run going.
Yeah, it was a crazy old game as well, 4-2, and I think Remy saved a penalty that would have made it denied Lyle Taylor his hat-trick. So, yeah, crazy old game. So, next season is obviously probably not going to be such a fun one to talk about, but we have to give a full picture from that, miraculous run to 7th in which we, were ending, obviously not ending on a high because of the injuries, but certainly were on a high before the injuries, and we kind of thought, get Taylor back fit, get Sars back fit, could really be on for the playoffs or maybe even better. But obviously the season was, with some highlights certainly, but by and large was a season of pain. So I suppose my question to you would be what really went wrong in that relegation season in your eyes, David?
I think it was another summer of a lot of sort of unrest again, really. I think, the position the club was in at the time, it couldn't sort of go that little extra yard for players and for people, and unfortunately, we lost Sonny Bradley, I think, which was massive. Luke McCormack also left the club, who was a big part of the that experience behind the scenes. Zach Viner went back to Bristol City. I think we lost Oscar. I think Oscar went over to Belgium, if I'm right. So all of a sudden, you're looking at a real solid base that we had. One of the reasons we were so good and so free flowing that 6 months before was because we had a really good back 4 and 5 with the goalkeeper, with Remy. So that basically just vanished, and we just couldn't replace it. And then I just think we struggled from the off. We didn't quite bring in enough quality to replace the ones that had lost, and it became difficult. And once again, we were chasing our tail from the start. We struggled at the start. We brought Freddie in, who obviously brought us Freddie Ladapo, who brought us goals, but we struggled defensively. We probably weren't athletic enough all over the pitch to really compete, and it became difficult. I think teams have probably cottoned on a little bit about Graham and Ruben as well, and we just couldn't quite find that rhythm. But yeah, we didn't have, that's not digging out the defenders at the time. It was everyone. We just wasn't as good without the ball as we should have been. And once you get into that situation and things start to snowball, it can become difficult. But I thought we turned it around again. It was another weird one where, bottom around Christmas time, and we went on another good run. And I thought we were where we needed to be. We were picking up results, and I thought we would have enough to get over the line. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be the case.
Yeah, it was it was an odd one, wasn't it? Because it was like, hang on, could it happen again? Surely not. And I don't think anyone expected we get inside 7th again, because that was just a once in a lifetime run. But I think people thought we could comfortably climb and get into the top half, and then we lost a few, and the form started to dip, and it was all kind of, hang on a minute, we could go again here, and then all of a sudden it culminated. But just rewinding back in time a little bit, as much as it wasn't a great season generally, you did on Boxing Day score one of the absolutely most incredible goals I've ever seen from an Argyle player. Annoyingly, I wasn't there for that game. I go to most away games, but for whatever family reason, I didn't go to that one. But absolutely incredible goal. Like what even led you to shoot? Was the keeper a bit off his line, or what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there was. I think there's probably a bit of anger as well in there, probably because of where we were, and it was I remember it was Boxing Day. So I had to leave Christmas Day, leave Manchester to go down to Plymouth. So I had to leave at 11 o'clock Christmas Day. So the kids were upset and the wife was mad. So I was getting in the neck. So I was probably just mad at everyone at that point. I just thought the ball's sitting up, I'm going to whack it. So yeah, no, I was really, really pleased with that one. Ultimately, I think we got beat in the end. But no, in terms of the actual goal, yeah, really pleased. Just to the connection and everything. And like I say, I didn't score as many as I should have for Argyle, but the ones I did were not bad, to be fair.
Certainly, that one was probably worth about 10 normal ones, I think, just from a fan point of view. So yeah, it was an absolutely insane goal. So then, obviously, going back to the sort of pain of relegation, and we went on that pretty shocking run of form, which culminated in that awful day at Accrington, and obviously Derek Adams sacking. I take it probably didn't come as too much of a surprise to you when the news then broke about Derek leaving the club.
No, it didn't. It was really, really tough, and it was probably. I remember we played Bristol City and Blackpool. Bristol Rovers at home, Blackpool away, and we were leading in both of them. We conceded really late in both of them. And if we'd have won them both, got over the line, we'd have been safe. And I think everyone knew that. I think everyone was mentally in such a state where they just wanted the season to end. And I think those were the chances, because the actual run-in was actually really tough. We had to go to I think Doncaster were in around the playoffs. Charlton were in the playoffs. We had a really tough run-in. So once we got into that, needing a result, I just think mentally, the way the team was and not quite being able to get over the line in those other games, just like I said, just snowballed, and the mood around the place sort of got worse and worse, and the fans, which totally understandable because they knew we were close. Ultimately, I think it was goal difference. We only needed to win a couple more, turn a couple of those, even a draw somewhere, but it was difficult. And then, like you say, the Accrington one was, probably one of my lowest moments in football, and real tough to take. It was not nice. The shouts coming at you and the team and the manager, totally understandable, totally get it. But we capitulated in that one. We were 3-0 down, I think, at half time, and Derek put attackers on because he wanted to try and win the game, which is probably what he does. And yeah, and then you knew something could happen. There's only one game left, but the club made that decision, and ultimately it was one to try and get us the best result we could on the last game of the season, which it worked because we got a win. But unfortunately, results elsewhere meant that we went down, and to do it like I say, I lost the title on goal difference and relegated on goal difference. It's difficult, and that was probably, that those last couple of months was probably when I knew that my time was up playing wise. I think I probably could have, I played 40 odd games that season, 44, 45 games that season. So I was fit, but I think mentally, it had taken its toll, and that that last few months were not easy, were not nice, and was probably a big factor in sort of knocking on the head. And, I was struggling, and the results, and that ultimately that relegation probably was enough to tell me that your time's done.
Yeah, well, just ending on and thank you for giving such an honest answer, by the way, David. Just ending on a little bit more of a positive note, not in terms of the outcome, obviously, because of other results, but just in terms of how we did. Obviously, when again, this is not meant even from a fan point of view of any disrespect to Eric, because he was, certainly for 3 of the 4 years he was a great manager for us. But I think he'd lost it with the fans, and the fans had lost it with him by the end. So when that news came on, the Monday, the Tuesday, everyone getting behind Kevin Nanscoville, there was all these messages of good luck and support coming in from former Argyle players across the world. How much of that was a big motivating factor, and what was the mood like running out at the start for that final game against Scunthorpe?
It was. You can see what they tried to do. Certainly, they tried to put a real shift in the mood around the place, and it certainly worked. Everyone was bang up for it, and there was. I remember I did an interview before the game with Lloyd Jones, a young player, and they wanted us to do it together to promote, togetherness, and they did other stuff. They really wanted to promote. Look, we're all together in this one last game, and they got other people, and ultimately, like I say, it worked. And I remember there was the Matt Macy incident, weren't there, with the throw-in, and that was carnage when you think about it. But I'm glad we won that game. I'm glad I won that game. It meant a lot that at least when it came down to it in that real moment in front of everyone, we did come together. We won the game, and like I say, unfortunately, the result elsewhere meant that it wasn't meant to be. But we weren't relegated on the back of that one. It was something throughout the whole season that we couldn't quite get right.
Yeah, just a final couple of bits to me on that season. Now, I was going to ask you, there were 2 of the most ever surreal moments I remember as a fan being in the stands took place in that game, and I was really interested to hear your take on both of them as a player. One being, of course, the crazy incident with Matt Macy, which you just alluded to, and the other being hearing that Southend got that late winner against Sunderland, even though we were doing our bit, we were 3-2 up, we were in the right place. Just that deathly quiet that went around the ground. As we heard the news, I think it was really late in the game, like 85th minute, 86th minute, something like that. What was your thought being on the pitch for those 2 instances? Because certainly with the Matt Macy one, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that on a football pitch, and I'm sure I never will again. What was it like being on the pitch for that?
Yeah, it was a strange one. I can't remember the goal. I just remember thinking, how's that happened? Because I don't think I was even looking at what was going on, and then just everyone just went mad. And I remember Sars was raging. He was going right after him. I presume that we would maybe have the chance to put the ball in the net, or the other end, or I don't know. But in reality, it is what it is. And if they'd have stayed up on the back of that, then I'm sure that they will think that it's the right thing to do. But it was a very strange moment, and it probably brought everyone together that little bit more to go and get a result. But I just think, with the Southend thing, I think we've been that sort of ingrained throughout the whole week that winner stays up between us and Scunthorpe, and if we can get the result, I just thought that was us. So to sort of get the win that we needed, but to go down was so frustrating. Like I say, I think it was only a couple of goals. I think if we only needed a couple more goals. I think it was really close, goal difference wise. So yeah, it was very, very deflated after the game, and it was a long summer off the back of it.
Yeah, I've having briefly checked the table on that point. We were 3 goals short on goal difference. If we'd have won 5-1 or 6-2 as it would have been, then we would have done it, which is probably a bit far off. But you never know, if that goal hadn't have gone in to make it 2-1, we could have got a third piled men forward. Who knows? There is a chance it may have had impact. Just to follow up on that, then, was there any discussion with the Scunthorpe players? Did any of you kind of say to them, "Hang on a minute, are we gonna get a goal here, or was it too much in the
I think they were. I think I remember them speaking, and I think they just sort of battered it off, if I remember, and it was just like, just sort of get on with it, and what can I do? And and I just, next thing I know, we were taking kickoff, and you sort of your head scrambled a little bit. Like I say, I couldn't quite. I remember at the time not really understanding what had actually gone on, like why. It was some finish, to be fair to the lad. It was actually a really good goal from where he was on the pitch, to put it in the far corner like that. It's actually done all right, but No, it was a strange game, but it had a little bit of everything.
I remember thinking he was a very lucky lad that we got that winner, and that wasn't the reason why we went down. Because if that was the reason we went down, he would have probably never known peace again. I don't think.
No, it'd have made a much bigger deal off for sure. I think, like you say, we would have still been speaking about it now, and it'd have been something that you'd have seen a lot more of. I don't think we've seen that much of it because of what actually happened. But yeah, if it had a little bit more consequence, I do think we'd have seen a lot more of it.
And it resulted in Mike Cooper, of course, coming on for his first ever appearance at home park, and obviously what a career he went on to have. Could you tell, was that the view around the club at that point, that he was going to be such a great goalkeeper as he turned out to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we knew that when he came on at Blackburn, I think it was the season before, to come on at half time in such a game like that, which was, massive environment and change, and he sort of took that in his stride. Youth Cup against Man City, he was excellent, and you just knew he had a good head on his shoulders, and he just needed an opportunity. And I think, probably getting relegated was the best thing that happened for him. You could play him in League Two. It's much easier to put him in and just to go and get the games. He just needed to play, just needed the games. He needed however many he played, 150 games to sort of iron his game out and to improve. But yeah, look, he's gone on to do some unbelievable things, and it's no coincidence with his work rate and his attitude and his quality that he's gone on to achieve some good things. And I expect him to be at the top level of the game, playing in the Premier League pretty soon. And whether that's with Sheffield United or not, he'll get there. He'll get there in the next 6, 12, 18 months for sure.
You obviously weren't then offered a contract, but you opted to retire. I guess that was before we even hired a manager. So I guess that was on the recommendation of kind of people like, Kevin Nanskivel and people who were sort of around the club. I know you kind of already answered the question for me, that you were thinking about calling it a day just because of how badly that season ended. Like you say, you felt that your legs were going a bit. But was there a bit of you that was sort of tempted of just stay for one more year and try and get them out of League Two?
Absolutely, yeah. That was in my mind. I think I probably made my mind up February, March time that it was becoming really difficult. Family wise, it was becoming very difficult to balance it. I'd been doing 2 or 3 years. I had a young son who was born when I was down in Plymouth, so 3 kids, and I remember my daughter got hit by a car just before the Coventry game. Nothing serious, she was fine, but I just remember thinking, like, I'm a long way away from being able to do anything here, and it just became difficult. Look, if the club would have said, here's a 1 year, 2 year, bring them all down, I would have stayed. Absolutely, I'd love to have stayed, but it probably just got. Yeah, and I do wish I'd have done another year. I do regret not doing one more year, but I think things from a football perspective, I do regret it. But in terms of what was going on off the pitch, and like I say, I felt like I'd let a lot of people down, and it was probably time to call it a day. I had a few offers from League Two clubs in that summer, but I didn't see the point in going to another League Two club. If I was going to play in League Two, I'd have done it for Argyle, and so nothing else. It was either play for Argyle, or there was nothing else that really, ultimately, at the end of the day, nothing else would have ever sort of made, I'd have ever got that feeling anywhere else. So it was probably the right time just to knock it on the head and start doing other stuff.
No, fair play. Well, I think Aaron's got a couple more little bits before we close off. But thank you so much for your time, David. Thank you for your answers. And it was an absolute pleasure watching you play for Argyle. And I think Aaron's got a couple of other bits about 1 or 2 players, and also I think your post-football career. So far away, Aaron.
Okay. The only thing I was going to add on the Scunthorpe game was going back to Oscar's earlier comment on justice. It's great to see where Scunthorpe are in the league now, and where we are.
And I think in Southend as well.
Yeah. I personally don't mind Southend as much, but yeah,
I don't blame Southend. They had to win the game and they won it. They
didn't win any game. Did it? What's Sunderland doing as well? I've got a thing for Sunderland. How are they getting beat as well? one eye on
put
the
out a
playoffs.
reserve team, didn't they?
Yeah, one eye on the playoffs. Terrible.
We're getting justice against them as well this season. Been very kind to us with points, so happily. I suppose before we go, the last thing really is just obviously post football career. I know you've already said that you're loans manager at Huddersfield, and do a bit of commentary with our friends up at BBC Radio Norfolk, who thankfully put us in touch. So huge thanks to them. No plans to become a manager at all then?
I'm doing my badges as I speak. So I've done some doing my B license, my coaching, and then I've done some recruitment courses that the FA do, some sort of talent ID stuff, a bit of scouting and things, which help when I'm at games. But no, I'm probably getting to the point now where I'm waiting, just going to go on that next sort of stage. And what I'm doing, I don't think can be a loans manager forever. It's a great job and I'm so lucky and I enjoy it. But at some point in the near future, I'm going to have to decide on a path and a career and do something that, takes me in for the next however many years. But I'd like it to still be in football. I certainly enjoy the Saturdays and enjoying the games and watching lads play football and make careers for themselves. Something with the younger players. I think I enjoy the youth sort of aspect of the game, and I think it's a little less toxic and a little less cutthroat. I'd have thought. I think I enjoy the youth and the academy side of the game, and sort of trying to get those young players into having careers.
Yeah, I've just realised we've kept you well over an hour.
No, don't be daft. It's flown by.
So last one, I suppose, not really related to Argyle at all, but obviously as we've already mentioned, your dad was a player and a manager. Obviously, yourself was a player. Any plans for your son to become the next, take up maybe at Torquay, complete the Devon trio?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and he's played for Torquay. That'll be everyone then, wouldn't it? He enjoys his football. He likes it, but I don't know. I feel like I need to get him into something like a little bit more sustainable. I don't know, darts or golf or something. A little bit. I could have a little bit more fun if I could do being a golfer. That'd be the best. That'd be go travel around the world with him while he plays golf. But no, he loves his sport. He's got his sisters. They all love the sport, and he's 8 now, so he's full on. But no, it's good. And like I say, if any clubs in Devon want to sign him, then I'll definitely push him their way.
One more, just seeing it's flown by, just one more for me. Aaron put it down to ask. He decided not to, so I'll ask it. You had 135 games playing alongside of Graham Carey. How does he rank along the best players you've ever played alongside, and who else would be up there?
Yeah, he, without a doubt, him and Wes Houlihan were two that made my job so much easier. That was my game, was to try and get the ball to the best players on the team, and he certainly was that, and Wes Houlihan was the same. They just make your job easier. The way I played the game, I played my best. I had my best football when I was playing with good players, because they just make your job so much easier, and he was certainly that. He had. I remember my first training session. I was like, "What is this lad doing here? What is he doing in League Two? He's what a wonderful left foot this fella's got." And he was a top guy, top player, and I got nothing but love for Graham. He was wonderful to play with for those years.
Yeah, that really is all for me. Thank you very much, David. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries, not a problem.
As always, really appreciate your time. And running over something that we famously do on this pod, but no, really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. If you're ever back in Plymouth or in Norwich for me, let us know. We'll definitely get you a pint or two. Yeah,
I'll be down for the Plymouth Norwich game. I'm going to do the radio, so that's in April, I think. So I'm going to come down to Devon for a night. So it'll be good.
Nice. Yeah, well, let us know, and if you're allowed a swift half. The night before, let us know. We'll certainly get you that. No, really appreciate it. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Nice one, Aaron. Not a problem.
Cheers.